lights are super bright, so I want to make sure you guys are out there. I'm Damian Journey. I'm the Global Chief Growth Officer of 72andSunny. You may not be familiar if you're not in the space, but we're a global creative agency. We deliver all sorts of really cool strategic and creative assets to the world through typically media. You see our stuff on commercials on TV all the time. We are an agency that has a lot of depth in sport. We spend a lot of time engaging there. The NFL is one of our clients. We help bring LA 28 to the fore. LA Rams are our client. We brought this thing called Sport Beach to the south of France, where we brought athletes and brands and executives to play, learn, and engage in sport. And so I'm super excited to be here with you all today at one of the meccas of sports and academia. I went to Michigan, go blue, but I have a lot of respect for the Bruins. So what you may not know about me, and you may not care, is that I'm a former athlete. I played high school football. I won like a bunch of 3-on-3 tournaments in my local town. And so I feel super excited to be able to share a stage with somebody who's almost as much of an athlete as I am. So there's this gentleman you might know the name of. He's a 14-year NBA veteran. He's played for the Warriors and the Kings and the hometown Clippers and the Lakers. He's the host and star of All the Smoke podcasts. He's a commentator for ESPN and the Kings and the Clippers. This dude's an investor and a producer and a baller and a dad, and most importantly, maybe even a UCLA Bruin star and legend. Give a lot of love to my man, Matt Barnes. More love, more love.
That was pretty serious. You made it sound like I did something.
Man.
Appreciate that.
Well, if you hadn't, that would have been harder to do, but you have, so it was easy. Matt, thanks for being here with us today. This conversation is about life off the court. Right. You had a tremendous career on the court from the time you were a wee lad to, the many years you played in the NBA. But many people saw you, so they know that part. Right. What they may not know is Matt, the family man.
Yeah.
So let's start there.
I don't think people understand that side because you saw me on the court raising havoc, maybe cussing a ref out, getting into skirmishes, and kind of think that's who I am as a person. So I've really enjoyed post-career kind of, peeling back the layers and allowing people to see who I am as a man, first and foremost as a father, businessman, media personality now, but starting with my family, I have a beautiful, big, old, blended family. So we have, my fiance's here, but we have 6 kids from the age of, we have a 4-year-old son together, and then she has a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, and 9 and 10-year-old son and a 12-year-old daughter from her previous relationship. And then I have 14-year-old twins from my previous relationship. So we're everywhere from watching cartoons to having sex conversations. So everything in between. So it's just a wild house.
Cartoons to sex, exactly the type of thing I expected to talk about today. 5 boys, 1 girl.
Yeah, man.
Tell me what life is like having a lot of boys and 1 girl in the space.
A lot of energy, a lot of fights, a lot of yelling, a lot of boys doing boy things. I feel bad for our daughter Ava because when we had Ashton, it was her dream for that to be a girl to kind of balance the energy out, and we did kind of like a little reveal to them, and everyone popped the blue confetti, and she didn't see pink, and she slammed it and went off crying and was just hurt. You know what I mean? So obviously she loves her brother now, 4 years old, 4 years later, but. Just a lot of boys, So we're still, even though we're getting a little older, we're still talking about possibly going back one more time. I don't know, maybe.
Oh, really?
I don't know.
Again?
I'm getting old, man. I'm 43 now, so if we're gonna do it, we got to do it quickly.
Well, if you're gonna perform, you might as well perform at a top level
Right.
on all things in life, like.
And keep getting more jobs. I got all these jobs just to support the kids. That's it.
Amen to that. So you mentioned that you have a range, like 4 to 14. Yeah. I've got an 8-year-old daughter and a 3-year-old son, so I get what that little boy energy life is like. Tell me how the conversations change based on age and how you manage all those parts and pieces.
I can be in 3 different conversations in 10 minutes, again, ranging from, are you sure you wiped well, to, close the refrigerator and put the milk back after cereal, to, you're going where with your girlfriend? You know,
Right.
all that can be in 10 minutes, you know? So again, it's fun, it's learning. I'm always learning. I'm learning from my kids. And I really think, obviously, having such a connection of this younger movement has kind of helped me stay relevant in what I'm doing now. Because, you know, what was cool to us in high school, what was cool to us when I was on this campus, isn't cool to our kids. You know, they're looking at me like, Dad, are you kidding me? You know what I mean? So it's just like continuing to evolve and kind of trying to adapt and understand what this next generation is about, is why, you know, installing morals and discipline and the right qualities you want in your kids as they continue to grow.
So I couldn't agree more. I can remember sitting down with my daughter during last MLK Day, and I said, well, you're 8, 7. It's time to really understand this. So we sat and watched the I Have a Dream speech. And in addition to being bored after like 30 seconds, she turned around and was like, Dad, were trees gray back then? And I was like, no, it's just black and white
No
TV.
color, right?
She had no concept of life outside of pure,
It's
beautiful
crazy.
color.
I mean, my 4-year-old, because he's grown up on iPads, when he was younger, he would touch the TVs like they were touch screens. Like, no, bro, that's a TV. That's not a computer. You know
Don't
what I
break
mean?
my
So
shit.
it's just, it's just a whole different type of understanding. And again, we talked about this on kind of our prep call. It's just also, how do you strategically educate your kids on what the world is about now? Because it used to just be our parents or maybe the small community that raised us, but now the cell phones are telling them everything and telling them too much. You know, so when do you implement, when do you talk about sex? When do you talk about, I'm a cannabis advocate, so for me, when did I talk about cannabis with my kids? Alcohol, there's just so many different things coming up, and when is the right age to insert that conversation? But I always like to kind of almost err on the side of possibly a little too early, just to open the line of communication, because I saw with my twins, they're 14 now, and they came and told me some stuff, and I'm just like, wow, I can't believe you told me that. Like, I would have never told my parents that, but I think it was because I was installing bits and pieces along the way to make them feel comfortable no matter what it is. First of all, don't lie to me, but you can come and talk to me about anything. And again, I think that's so important, being able to keep that line of communication.
Yeah, you were telling me yesterday about a conversation around cigarettes versus weed. Now, this one was, it had me in my house talking about it, and we were dying laughing. Share with the group if you would.
So, was it 2017? So I just won a championship with the Warriors, so I rented a giant house on Doheny for like the whole summer. And
Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, it was an amazing time, but I had put the boys to sleep one night, and their room like hung over the pool, so when I put them to sleep, I went outside after a long day of chasing around 2 twin boys that, I was smoking a joint. And little did I know, I guess they looked out their window and saw me. So the next day they come downstairs like, Dad, we just talked about cigarettes and your lungs are going to be this, and that, and this. And I'm just like, okay, do I go along and tell them like, oh, you're right? Or do I just, maybe a time of truth, do I tell them what I was really doing? So again, I erred on the side of truth, and I told them like, hey, Daddy's knees, I was still nursing an ankle injury from the playoffs, so, Daddy's ankle's sore, my back is sore, I'm not big, the medicine hurts my stomach, I'm not much of a drinker, so I'll smoke a joint and it helps the pain go away and it helps me sleep. And they're kind of like, oh, but then Carter, who is the one I'm always going to have to watch at 7 or 8 years old, says, well, Dad, I just sprained my ankle the other day. When can I try? I'm like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So, again, it's inserting those conversations and kind of, even if it's a little too early, just because you don't know where the internet is going to take them these days.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think being a parent is a full-time job.
Absolutely.
On top of the other full-time jobs we have. And the proactivity you referenced, I think, is really, really important.
Yeah.
I know some of us out here may not have children, but at the end of the day, proactivity is kind of a model for life, as opposed to just, in some phase, be proactive in general, and I think good results will come.
And one thing before we kind of leave the family conversation, we're lucky to announce, I think this might be the first time I announced, but we're doing a family reality TV show called The Barnes Bunch on WeTV.
What?
That'll come out, it comes out in March, so you get to see behind the curtains of our family. We teamed up with my brother Jamie Foxx and his partner Datari. And so come March, you're gonna see this crazy family on TV, so that should be fun.
Dude, can't wait. Give him some love for that. We work with Jamie Foxx on BetMGM, and he's,
Great.
the consummate professional, funny as hell, and a good dude. I'm sure he's going to bring you all to life in the best possible way.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, share all the facts. So speaking of family, like many times when I think about family, it starts within your home, but then it quickly extends beyond your home. It extends to your extended family, it extends to your broader community. So let's talk a bit about community. You are more than just a former ball player and a media personality and a dad, but you're a social activist. Tell us a bit about social activity and how you got involved.
I've always been outspoken with wrongs. I think, I faced a lot of racism growing up. My high school was nearly burned down by the KKK. It's a long story. They were trying to kill
Dig
me.
in.
I had to move.
They were trying to kill you. What?
Yeah.
Pause. Let's get in that one. Double
Yeah.
click, please.
No, it was just I went to a predominantly white high school, and being Italian and black, there was a handful of biracial kids or black kids, and the kid was messing with my sister, spit on her, called her the N-word. So I did what a big brother is supposed to do. I was 2 years older. School didn't believe me. His dad was a big-time lawyer in the city, so they suspended me for a whole. This is 2 months before I come to UCLA. Suspend me. Long story short, I'm suspended, and the KKK comes and vandalizes the school, burns down a bathroom, hangs a big mannequin with my football jersey on it, says "Die nigger." There's still swastikas to this day that are engraved on that campus, so it was just a lot of kind of drama. So from there, in 1998, I realized that although I'm very proud to be biracial, that I'm looked upon as a black man. And there was no social media back then, but I just think that episode in my life kind of prepared me to start speaking out against injustice, in particular racism or police brutality. So it's something that I've kind of taken on since I've been able to have a platform playing in the NBA. But this P68 group, we really focus on civic engagement in black served communities, educating them on policy and getting out there and educating themselves on voting and what to vote and stuff that directly affects their community. And the vehicle this program uses is athletes, entertainers, and musicians, because if you're a parent in here, you know that you can say something until you're blue in the face, but let LeBron James or Steph Curry say the same thing, and okay, I get it. You know what I mean? So they've utilized that opportunity to, work with myself, Chris Paul, Offset. I mean, the list goes on of people who have kind of helped, push this message into black and underserved communities, just to understand how important our voice is. I think in our community, so often we feel like our voice is never heard, or if I don't vote, it's not important, and it's the exact opposite. So again, we try to use our resources, and we're bombarded with a ton of knowledge, and we, kind of to understand it and give it on and pass it on to those people who look up to us and listen.
Yeah, man, it's so important. Thanks for that work. It's not lost on me that this idea of athlete activism is a fairly new concept.
Yes.
Fairly new, but also very, very old.
Yep.
So Bill Russell and the great Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, back then he was Lou Alcindor, were activists back in the 60s and the 50s. And then there was a lull, especially as it relates to basketball. And then this more recent generation, of which you're a part, has really taken the mantle to talk broadly and loudly to the broader community around what we should be doing and why, what's right and what's wrong. Why do you think that this particular generation has been so vocal and willing to be out there about it?
First of all, I love it. I think it's important. I think a lot of stuff stems behind racism, you know what I mean? So to be able to get out there and openly speak about it and shun it, I think is huge. I was a part, again, when my first year in the NBA was 2002. My last year was 2017. But I was also a part of kind of a big movement where athletes started using their platforms for more than just kind of showing their life. So I was with the Clippers when Donald Sterling was banned for life, when his mistress released the tape of him talking bad about Magic and bad about blacks. And I remember when that whole situation was going on, Doc Rivers, so this is our Lob City team. Blake Griffin, DeAndre Jordan, Chris Paul, J.J. Redick, Jamal Crawford, we were a really good team playing against this young Warrior team. But this is the year before they went on their dynasty run and run championships.
Upstart Warriors, right?
This is young Draymond, young Steph, Clay, you name it. So this whole thing, TMZ drops this bomb in the middle of the playoffs. So Doc Rivers did a great job of kind of shielding us and didn't really want us to talk about, let's focus on the task at hand. But I remember LeBron James, and particularly, came out and came out on social media. There's no place for this in our league, and then and from there it kind of opened the door. We're thinking, man, if LeBron can come on here and talk about stuff other than sports, it's going to open the door for a lot of people. So fast forward to 2020 with the George Floyd situation, I just think it gave and to me, when I say this, I really think it's to each his own, because some people have a tremendous platform but don't feel comfortable speaking on them, and I don't knock them on it, because you have to have a certain comfort level.
Totally.
And when you have a certain comfort level, you're willing to educate yourself enough to speak properly about it. So again, fast forward to 2020, where leagues started jumping on board and understanding the power in our voice. And it was incredible. And I think that kind of led into the elections with, we turned out in such numbers that they thought we cheated. You know what I mean? So it's just to really kind of understand the big picture of how everything kind of plays a part into getting older, evolving, and educating yourself.
No, it's a real thing. And I just want to take a moment to applaud you and your fellow compadres for doing that. Let's do that for the moment, because at the end of the day, you raised a point earlier around kids pay attention to others more than they do their parents, or at least in part, largely to others, in addition to their parents. And what celebrities and athletes say really, really does make an impact on society, especially the younger generation. So you all stepping out and speaking up really has made a difference for folks. And I think the culture of the country has changed a bit as you all started being more vocal.
No, I agree.
You've led many leagues in that category as well. Many other leagues weren't willing to take those sorts of stands.
Yeah, the NBA has always been very proactive, again, and very about the player. And I just think it's great to see all leagues kind of come together, understanding, the power in numbers, the power in unity. And then we all pretty much, may have some crossover audience, but we all have different demographics we're speaking to, too. So if we can get a unified message of peace, love, education, understanding from a gigantic group of athletes, I think that goes a long way.
Well, on this topic of culture, now that we've kind of opened the door on that, you've had some iconic teammates, people like Chris Paul and Shaq and Blake Griffin and, the Chris Webber, go blue, Dwight, Grant Hill, all these guys, the great Kobe Bryant, the late, great Kobe Bryant. In a basketball setting, over 14 years and years before that, you've had to adapt, and culture changes on each and every team, and maybe even throughout the course of a season. Talk to me about basketball team culture. And there's going to be a follow-on question, so you know where I'm going
basketball
with this.
team culture is fun. To be honest with you, like, the culture is what I miss. I mean, I've been removed 6 years from the game now, retired 6 years, and I still, as he spoke call games on ESPN. I coach my kids. Do you still play? I was like, I don't care to play at all anymore. Like, when they say, do you miss the NBA, it's not necessarily playing, it's the culture I miss. It's the post, when a coach kicks our butt all practice and we sit back here and we don't shower, we just talk for like 2 hours because we're so exhausted, you know what I mean? Or plane rides, bus rides, hotel, playing cards or video games in someone's room. Just the culture of a team is so important to winning. I was very fortunate to be able to be on that 2017 Warrior team with Kevin Durant and Steph and Clay and KD and Iguodala and a rock star coach and Steve Kerr, and it was just, the culture was different. Like, on off days, people wanted to be in the building. They wanted to be around each other. Our families hung out. We went to kids' birthday parties. We went to dinners, and it was just a culture. And then on the other hand, I've been on teams where there was different pockets of teams that didn't necessarily, or groups of guys that one may whisper about another, and I wasn't really for any of that. I feel like that kind of stuff kept us from winning a championship with the Clippers. That Lob City team was good enough to win a championship, but there was too much. We were our own worst enemies. So,
I've been trying to figure that out for years. Thanks for giving me the nugget.
That we were our own worst enemies, man. But culture is just very important. If you and I are really tight, I'm willing to do anything for you. If I don't really mess with you, I might let some stuff slide. So I just think culture is huge, and obviously that carries over into life, in your family, in the environment you put yourself in, and how important your little ecosystem is to you. So imagine that on a bigger scale, understanding that we're paid a ton of money to go out there and perform, and those teams that have solid cultures and environments are usually the teams that win championships, not just in basketball but across the board.
Well, I'm happy you mentioned that part about, if you're really tight, you'll do anything for you, because we're so tight, I can't wait for my invitation to be on All the Smoke. That'll be coming to you sometime next couple months, I'm sure. So basketball culture is the thing. You've demonstrated that culture helps you to win. Talk about how you've translated that, or how that translates to business, because there's cultures in business every day, and some are winning and some are losing.
I had a conversation. We did Kobe's last interview on my show, All the Smoke. It was supposed to be a 2-part interview, but unfortunately the crash happened. But I remember we were in his office and he was finishing writing a novel. And we were just talking about, like, what the transition has been like, and how adamant Kobe was he used to just tell me like, MB, fuck the last 20 years. And I'm thinking like 5 championships, Kobe Bryant, the Laker, like, fuck that.
Yeah, what?
Okay, wait till you see this next 20 years. And he was so adamant on the business of Kobe Bryant and what he was going to be able to create was going to outweigh what he did since he was 17 for the world to see. And he said, he's just like, we're built for this. We're trained for it. We're disciplined. We're committed. And if you apply everything you used in your career to business, I mean, this shit is easy. I'm just paraphrasing kind of, this shit is easy. I'm just like, he's like, normally we're up at 5, 6, 4 sometimes. Like, yeah, I wasn't up at 4. That might have been you. But 5 or 6 to go out there and hit the weight room or hit the track. He's like, now we're waking up at 5 or 6 and sending emails and kind of preparing our day. And it's just like, although I was already on like that grind mentality, he just had a perfect perspective for me. And it's just like, you're right. If we apply everything that made us the 1%, everyone in the world wants to play in the NBA. There's been less than 5, when people talk trash about NBA players, there's been less than 5,000 players in the history of the league.
If I was just a little bit taller.
Crazy, right? You almost made it. But again, we have everything it takes, but sometimes finishing one thing, you're going to start back at the bottom, which is fine. In some of the business stuff I've done, I had to start from the bottom. Sometimes me going to school here or playing with Kobe or winning a championship with Golden State has kind of let me come in at a higher level of situations. But nevertheless, you just have to grind and study and understand it and embrace it. And, that's why I feel like you're seeing a lot more athletes be successful in business now because they understand that, like, hey, we have everything it takes on this court. We're not just going to shut up and dribble. We're not just dumb athletes, especially these newer athletes. It's just like, the world is our oyster, so let's continue to educate ourselves and be prepared for it.
Yeah, I love that. I saw you interview Magic Johnson, who's one of my all-time favorites, and even more recently, T.O. And the way T.O. put it was desire, discipline, and drive or determination. And it's like, if you have those 3 things, which all professional athletes have, or at least the vast majority of them, except those that didn't flame out, you can apply those things to business in a way that will allow you to excel in that field as well. So I'm excited about what you've been up to. So let's get into that a little bit. All About the Smoke podcast, one of the coolest, dopest, most fun podcasts on planet Earth. I find myself in the rabbit hole all the time. So how'd that get started?
First of all, shout out Steven Espinoza, the president of Showtime Sports. He's in the building today.
Give him some love.
He took a chance, although he didn't see the vision at the beginning. We had to prove ourselves, and obviously it being a new space, but it came about with, Steven Jackson, my partner, and I, became really close when my mom died when I played for the Warriors the first time in 2007. And just we're always close from there. And he retired a few years from me, but, I jumped into media right when I was done. And we were both respectively working for ESPN and Fox. And, when you work for those companies, it's kind of you got to walk a straight line. And I've been known to trip and fall off the line sometimes.
You've been swerved.
Overstep it a couple of times. So although I was having a good time, I was just, what can we do together that would give us a little bit more freedom and flexibility? And I said podcast, not knowing what a podcast was. And Jack's like, if you make it happen, I'm down. So we did that. I kind of cold pitched one of Steven's friends, Brian Daly, that flew out here from New York to kind of just, see what it was. I cold pitched him on the idea, and we didn't really know what we had, but we figured we might have something, and it turned into, we won Sports Podcast of the Year our first season. Wow. Knocked everyone out the water, and literally just started our 5th season about 3 weeks ago. So it's been a tremendous experience, learning experience, journey, to have Kobe's last conversation, to be the first interview that Will Smith did post-slap.
Post-slap is like a point in time.
Right.
It was like AD, BC, and post-slap.
Yeah. Where were you?
Yeah.
To really just, we just did Jada Pinkett Smith our last run as well, but to have Kevin Hart, Jamie Foxx, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Shaq, Magic Johnson, although I always say that we're more than a podcast, but I'll put our guest list against any show ever.
Facts.
Like TV show, sit down talk show, Breakfast Club, you name it. When I talk about the guest list we've had, and it's been so powerful. So, obviously continue to learn and build that space, but to me, what was next? So kind of owning our own was always been an important thing. That's something we lack in our communities. So I got clearance from Steven and some other people to build All the Smoke Productions. So we're in the process of doing that and creating and bringing on talent and allowing them to kind of build out their own little ecosystem. But all that is a bigger play for, we're starting a media company. So I've aligned myself with some really, really, really smart people that loved everything I was doing, that have kind of come and put everything in order. All the business stuff that I'm doing, that kind of 6 degrees of separation type stuff, we've been able to put all that under one umbrella, and we're going to be launching a media company in 2024. So that's really something I've been grinding on and studying on and learning about, you know, the last 6 to 8 months. And I'm really excited where we can take it, because I've been able to hire probably 5 of my UCLA homeboys that I went to school here with in all different capacities, and bringing new people on and stealing people from bigger companies, like all that kind of fun stuff you do when you're, you know, when you're trying to build a successful business. So it's new, it's fun, I'm energized and excited about it, and I'm excited that what we're going to be able to create for the fans.
Man, I'm super excited about that. Give it up for All the Smoke Productions. Pay close attention, because even better things are ahead. I want to talk about authenticity, but before I throw it to you, we work with the National Football League, and so part of what we do all the 5 years we work with them, helping to take helmets off of players so you can actually understand who the human beings are. The NBA has always had the advantage, because you see dudes' face emotions, you see them sweating, you see the whole deal.
We're a little more handsome. That's why we didn't have to have helmets on our
heads.
Yeah,
exactly. Some of those dudes are ugly.
I'm just kidding.
But so we've worked hard to help make sure that people can understand the player. And authenticity is part of it. I'd love if you would roll the spot, and then afterwards we can talk a bit about authenticity.
All right, everyone. Last season was a smash. Ratings gold, but this year's script has to top it. So welcome to the table read for the 104th season of the NFL. Let's get to work. Yes, Jalen.
I thought this was the dress rehearsal.
Oh, sorry.
Week 1, 4th quarter, 3:02 left. Jamar leaps up and makes a no-handed catch.
No hands. How?
I don't need hands. I'll just catch you with my abs.
We can call it the abracadabra. Might as well send the ball to Canton now.
What if we wrote the Mahomes character out of the script entirely?
Wrote him over.
Guys, not cool. Who said that?
She did.
You're an actor, Patrick. Act like one.
Boring.
What if we played shirts versus skins?
I like it, Kirko.
What if we replace my legs with actual wheels?
I love it.
What if Derrick Henry stiff arms a guy into another?
Would it be possible for us to get to page 2?
So we made that to launch this season of the NFL, and 2 things that are really unique about that. One, you get a chance to see the players, and they're acting their authentic selves. Like, some of those words we might have helped them with, but a lot of those things were things they came up with, right? So there's an authenticity piece there. And the other part is it speaks to culture. There's this underground community, both in football and basketball, that says it's scripted. It's all planned. The league wants the Lakers versus the Celtics every year. It's all a setup, like you guys are just actors. And so we leaned hard into that. I'd love to get a sense from you, what does authenticity mean to you? And how do you leverage it in a way that benefits you and your brand?
Man, it's been everything. And at the beginning, it was tough, you know, because I was me. And, you know, to get in this league, I had to scratch and claw to do some things, and I earned a reputation. But I remember someone told me, like, the reputation, whether good or bad, you earned. So I had a reputation as a bad boy. And although that was the competitive nature I had, I remember when I faked the ball in Kobe's face in 2010, which is still a meme. What is it, 2023, 13? Kids that weren't even born come up to me and tell me Kobe didn't flinch. I'm like, little man, you wasn't even born yet. Like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? But I realized right then is I kind of became although I was a bad boy, I became a villain then, because Kobe is a superhero. And I get that. And at first, when I would tell you, I was getting death threats, like, we better not see you in LA this summer, woo, woo, woo. But I'm just like, damn, like, they're on me, huh?
The woo, woo, woo is really scary.
Right. So I was thinking, like, I'm not really this person. But then I flipped and I'm just like, okay, if you want me to be if I am going to be the bad guy, let me embrace, like, I explained it to my kids as like a wrestler, you know, because I used to bring the kids like, Dad, why did they boo you when they announce your name in the starting lineup? Do they not like you? I'm just like, no, I'm like the Undertaker, and I'm always going to have to go guard Hulk Hogan. They're like, oh, okay. So I'm the bad guy that has to go stop the good guy. So I embraced it. But then, like I said earlier, just the opportunity to kind of, you know, peel a few layers back once social media became available to talk, and once I got into the media. So I think that same fire and grit and authenticity that I played with has allowed me to succeed post media, because between us, I mean, there's just a lot of sugarcoating out there, and there's a lot of BS that goes on when speaking, and there's a lot of favorites to be played, and there's a lot of talk about this and push this narrative, and I've been fortunate enough to work for some of the biggest companies, but I've never necessarily been about that. I've been about giving you a unique look into our side. As great as Stephen A. Smith or Skip or whoever's your favorite guy out there, he can't tell you what it's like to, shoot 2 free throws and send it into overtime in a playoff game, or he can't tell you what it's like when we had a bullshit first half and someone like Phil Jackson's cussing us out in the locker room and he doesn't really cuss. I mean, he can't, you can't, guys that didn't play it can't give you that aspect. So I just think just being real and being authentic to this media space has helped me open doors. And I mean, I was a role player, you know what I mean? I was never a star. I knew that. I was very confident and knew what my role was on every team. But I think being authentic to myself, I've been able to move as if I was a 10-time All-Star and multiple-time champion, just because I think I move with respect and treat other people with respect and do things the right way.
Well, I love that you said that, because this reference of being a bad boy, I'm from Michigan, right? So I grew up Detroit Pistons and bad boys.
The real bad boys.
Real bad, right? We kind of helped to invent that, or at least got labeled with it. But I remember when LeBron James was all of a sudden the villain. After having been the golden child and the chosen one, and he goes to Miami, becomes the villain. For a season, he tried to play that role.
He didn't like it.
He didn't like it.
It's tough, man. When a lot of people are always yelling and cussing and saying bad stuff to you, like, it's not cool. Like, it's like
not
people
cool.
don't understand. Like my boy KD, when obviously he likes to get on social media and talk, but when someone was trying to talk bad, I'm like, can you imagine every time you jumped on social media was filled with nothing but negativity? Like, it's not easy. But go ahead to your point.
But no, I mean, I think that's what's made your post-career career so awesome, is because people felt like they knew you. And all the smoke doesn't veer too far from who we might have thought.
Right.
I've not seen you jump on anybody or hit anybody with a ball, but I have seen you lean into who you actually are, and people reward you for that in the modern era with, as you think about commerce and other ways to generate revenue and revenue streams. That's a benefit today, whereas historically, sanitization might have been the answer.
Well, I mean, I'm to the point now, and this is a tremendous blessing, that I can respectfully turn brands down that don't align with what I represent and what I'm about. And to think, like, again, I wasn't someone you would think brand awareness and, brands wanting to be a part of my shows and represent me and represent my kids now. And I've got to the point and kind of worked hard enough to have a little bit of, okay, I appreciate the offer and love what you do, but it doesn't necessarily align with what I'm about. And to be able to do something like that, when it's good money involved, it's just like, damn, like I feel like I have accomplished something, and it's a good feeling.
Well, there it is. So we have one last question. You've been successful at every stage of your life. What words of advice would you give the people in the room? There's executives from some of the best companies on planet Earth. There's students. What advice would you give them?
Be present in your everyday family life. I think so often we get on a hamster wheel and we are on autopilot, and we take things for, particularly like my fiance and I finding time for ourselves because we have 6 kids, or, taking kids in groups of 2 or groups of 1 and doing something special. I just think being present, because we live in a 365 grind, and it's always about getting more, and we're never satisfied. And I think that's a great mentality to an extent, but I also think it puts us on autopilot and it puts us on that hamster wheel where we're missing a ton of moments with our kids or our families, or just really enjoying what we've worked for, and then we look back and it's too late.
Well, I think that opens the doors of the church. Thank you, Matt. It's been a pleasure. Thank you all.